I'm dreaming of the road again, set free in the wind.
What's up, everybody? So I'm gonna be kind of doing a little different video discussing about the breastfeeding journey that I went along, as well as a weaning process. So I breastfed with my firstborn for roughly about 3 weeks, and then I just kind of ended it due to being uneducated and not having a good support system at the time, and just really not knowing what I was doing, to be quite frank. The second one, I was so defeated that I didn't get to have the journey that I had always planned about. And so in that time frame, I did my research, I dove deep, I just did all the digging I could possibly do. I had a better shot at it, and I'm so incredibly thankful for both of my journeys. So hopefully I can kind of help you in this little sense. So first off, I just want to say, if you do not get to meet your goal, a day is enough. You did what you could. Maybe your body didn't produce enough. Maybe you had a NICU baby, and there's so many stuff that comes into play. You're not a failure. I felt like a complete failure, and you were literally not a failure. I promise you, my firstborn, like I said, even in the hospital, he was getting formula as well as my breast milk. Uneducated, I was out of it. I had a C-section, all that. So I just was so fuzzy minded, and they were just so shoving down your throat like, oh, he's so tiny, like he was 4 pounds 11 ounces, and he was so healthy. He didn't even go to the NICU. Like, he was perfectly healthy, just had some complications. You can go check those videos out. It's in the pregnancy journey. I have pregnancy journey 1, pregnancy journey 2. You can check that out. I also have colostrum, to where I talk about collecting it and my journey on that. So definitely go check those out if you do want to deep dive a little bit more, because I also did collect the colostrum. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Maybe my accent, I don't know. It's just how I was taught to say it. But if you do want to check that out, I did collect it before I had my second born, and I'm so thankful I did. I personally feel like it helped me mentally and physically when it came to my breastfeeding journey, and my husband was able to feed our second born in the hospital while I was kind of resting. I did let him latch at first, but then my husband did all that, and we used all of it in the hospital. I wish I would have gotten more, because I thought before I had him that I had enough, and I did have enough, obviously, because my milk started coming in, but I wish I would have actually had more. That way my husband could have been involved with that more, because I didn't even do the bottle. So anyways, we're gonna get into that, and I'm gonna kind of just talk about like my experience, and hopefully you can kind of learn something from this in that sense and go from there. So first things first, so with my firstborn, I ended up breastfeeding until about 3 weeks. So going to the hospital, you know, obviously there was so many complications. Like I said, check the complications out. I'm getting hypertension, almost preeclampsia, emergency C-section. Long story short, so he was born 4 pounds 11 ounces, kind of stopped growing, so they were kind of fretting about his size and intaking and all that stuff, and I really wasn't able to get him to properly latch. They had me use a nipple shield. Nothing against nipple shield, sometimes it can actually help your child, but in my case, I just don't feel like they were properly showing me, and I don't think I was like really educated. So the whole purpose of this is you have to be educated. First, fifth child, whatever, educate yourself, because I promise you, they're trying to get you to fail, okay? Like I said, formula, no hate to it, been there, done that, but there is a lot of wonderfulness when it comes to breastfeeding. We did the nipple shield. One thing I think about the nipple shield is I feel like as if it confused my firstborn. Okay, so he had that, he was kind of latching, but he was kind of struggling a little bit, and then also there was just a lot of using the bottle. So obviously you got family coming over and seeing your child, your husband, you, just anybody using the bottle. A lot of people try to make you feel guilty for putting baby on the breast, because it's like, oh, well, we want to bond with the baby. Okay, you can try to find ways to bond with the baby some other reason way if you really want to. If you want to just sit here and belittle someone because you're breastfeeding, that's just a little toxic, if you will. Basically, my thing is, you know, you're gonna have to put your foot down on a lot of these occasions. So if you do need to do the nipple shield, okay, great, cool, but if you can, try to avoid using that. So I feel like that kind of stunted the breastfeeding journey, as well as a bunch of doctors were saying that I didn't have a lot of calorie in my breast milk. I don't really know how true that is. I just don't think that there was enough fat. I don't think I was having enough calorie intake, but I don't think I was like eating quite well. A lot of people say oatmeal and body armor helps your milk production. I'm not saying that's not true, but as my second journey of breastfeeding, I did some deep diving. Their body armor, there's a lot of calories in it. There's a lot of calories in oatmeal. Just to have a cup there's a lot of calories. I was doing a cup and a half just for breakfast, sometimes even lunch and dinner, as well as other meals during my second time around. But it's just so many calories. If you are drinking a lot of fluid, a lot of water, if you will, you know, whatever, it's just, there's calories. You gotta have a good calorie intake, a lot of fluid intake, because your body's obviously producing all that stuff. Your body is going to produce what your baby needs. Sometimes you may produce a little less, but a little pro tip is within the first like 2.5 months, your body's going to be trying to figure out how much your baby needs. So by month 3, your letdown's not going to happen. So when your baby starts nursing, your baby, like, your milk's not going to come in until about like a few minutes after your baby's like trying to trigger it, and then eventually it's going to come down, and that's when your body's going to know how much your baby does need. So typically what I do, or typically what I recommend you to do, is when you get a Haka, okay, that's like the best like hand pump you possibly have, because it can literally collect your letdown as you're breastfeeding. So that's one way to collect extra milk, so you don't have to worry about pumping if you're exhausted, all that stuff. So go ahead and stick the Haka on the other side of the breast while you're breastfeeding, and you'll get your letdown. That also teaches your body to constantly make more milk. And if you want to produce more milk or whatnot, maybe 10-15 minutes after you breastfeed and your baby is actually fed and is not going to want any more, because obviously during the newborn stages they're going to hit the cluster feeding. That's completely normal. Don't follow, oh my goodness, do not follow that every 2 to 3 hours. Feed your baby on demand. I promise you, your body and your baby knows what they're doing. I promise you. Because that every 2 to 3 hours is complete bull. Even with the formula baby, that was complete bull. Oh my gosh. The healthcare system, trash. I cannot stand it. Let me tell you. There's some pros with it, but there's a lot of, anyways. Don't follow the 2 to 3 hour rule. There's nothing wrong with your baby. There's nothing wrong with you. Try to pump a little bit more. Okay, then I feel as if I was sleeping a lot and not really eating a lot with my first round of breastfeeding. So I just was not producing enough. And obviously, like, you can tell when it comes to your breast milk if you put it in the bottle. I will say your baby can obviously get nipple confusion. So that was another thing when it came to my first breastfeeding journey, is with the nipple shield, and also allowing my husband and family members, so there's a bunch of people, you know, new baby, all that stuff, coming, so he had to eat and stuff, and there was just a lot of confusion. So when it did come around to him breastfeeding, he had no interest and would instantly fall asleep because he was just like a little confused on that little aspect. And that's just because we were just not in the moment of allowing him to bond in that sense. And so that was like strike 2. I had a C-section. My recovery was so brutal, so trash, and then instantly thrown into work doing 12-hour shifts. So I did not stand a chance. And the support system I had is still the same I have now, but they were just as educated as I was. We were not educated. And so people were just instantly like listening to the doctors, like, oh, you don't have enough calories. I'm already skinny. I was already dropping back to my weight. So they're like, you know, your metabolism is high, so this is why you're not producing. Like, they were just not, there's just, you know, what I know now is just so insane. So that's what I'm saying. You really need to do your research. And hopefully this kind of help you, hopefully. But when it came to my second born, what I realized is I was eating a lot of oatmeal. I didn't really do the body armors. I mainly just did a lot of water, occasional iced coffee and stuff. Caffeine can irritate the little baby's belly, you know. But basically what I would do in the mornings, I would have like a cup and a half, maybe 2 cups of oatmeal with some honey, sugar, you know, all that stuff, making sure there's a good nutrition balance as well as calorie. And then throughout the rest of the day, I would have a high calorie intake. So my calorie intake may be like 2,000. So I would try to make it like 2,500, maybe 3,000 for like the whole day. And if I skipped a meal in those like first 6 months of breastfeeding, I would barely be producing anything. So it really is about what you're eating, like your calorie intake and your fluid intake. I promise you, that's literally the main source. Also, just tricking your body to think that your baby needs more in those first 2 months. You can get that in the first 2 months. You're potentially going to produce more than what your baby actually needs, and then you just got to continue to do that, because if you don't, your body's going to slowly stop producing and it's going to shorten that, which leads me to weaning your baby from breastfeeding. And that is such a hard and struggle bus time. So when it came to my first one, we were mainly kind of doing a lot of formula and mixing it and not really, because I wasn't pumping a lot. We were out and about, I didn't feel comfortable. It was a lot, you know, young first time mom here, okay? So I ended up just kind of just sleeping, and then it just slowly stopped producing as much, because obviously I wasn't nursing as much in those first 3 weeks, and it was just kind of like occasional, and even then it wasn't like a whole lot. So eventually I just kind of dried up, and it was a little bit easier, still painful, but the second time around, oh my word, was it painful. So this process actually started when he was 13 months. So around that time, my husband and I hit our 9-year dating anniversary. So we decided to go on a little trip. And it was just like an overnight, but I kind of started, I want to say the weekend before. So it was like a whole week before he was going to stay at the family member's house. And I actually kind of cut the morning feed. So typically after breakfast, after he ate, he would like to kind of do like a comfort morning little feed before he would take a nap. And I kind of cut that out, and then he kind of went longer until nap time. So he would get at nap time and then eating time all throughout that. So my dog has the zoomies. So that was around November. So I ended my breastfeeding in March. So okay, so we got November. So around December, I actually kind of started cutting it to where I cut the evening feeds. The only time that he would really get it would be nap time and bedtime, and then throughout the night. So that was kind of like his comfort times. And I kind of knew that, and I knew that's what it was, so I wasn't ready to like cut that. I don't think I was really fully ready to cut the breastfeeding journey. It wasn't, I don't know why. I just kind of, before he turned a year old, everyone would kind of ask me what was my plan, and I just kind of felt in my gut that I wanted to at least get past the 6th season, just because I knew that breastfeeding has a lot of qualities and health benefits when it comes to that aspect. So we ended up moving and all that stuff. There's videos on that too if you want to check that out. So around January, actually, a few times we had to be watched, and I wasn't there for nap time. So there, before that, kind of in the beginning of January, I kind of knew that was going to happen. So there'd be a few times when I would cut, sometimes like him falling asleep at nighttime, I would cut that feed and he would have a bottle, because the whole goal of this also is to, so I use the Tommy Tippy cups. This is not a cup. So basically I would give him a cup, and I only put water in it. I don't do milk, because that is a pain. Also switching from bottles. Learned that on the hard way with my firstborn, because he did formula into milk, all that stuff. Anyways, so I would have the Tommy Tippy cup. Pretend this is Tommy Tippy. Tommy Tippy cup, and I would sit there with my oldest and my youngest in the rocking chair, all that stuff, and that would kind of like, hey, this is a comfort, like they're all gone type of situation. And so he'd eventually fall asleep, but then he'd wake up in the middle of the night and he wanted to comfort food. I was not ready to cut that, but what I started doing was falling asleep at nap time. I would cut that, but then if he woke up in the middle of nap time, I would let him nurse back to sleep. And same thing as bedtime, I would not let him have it before bed, but if he woke up in the middle of the night, then he would get it. So it wasn't like a shock type of sense, but it was like slowly showing him like, hey, here's gonna be like your new comfort. But it was like a slow little baby step due to me not mentally being ready or feeling like it was like ready, you know, mom instinct, and just kind of showing him, because there was also going to be a lot of transition where we were moving, packing, like it was a whole process. So January ending came around, and then I was not there, so he would like fall asleep, all that stuff. And then eventually February kind of came around, and it was getting more so then I started cutting the nap time. So even if he woke up in the middle of nap time, he would not get it. So my whole thing of this is, when it came to the breastfeeding, doing a bottle was like a little bit easier, because it kind of like out of sight, out of mind. My firstborn, he loved the milk bottles, like he did the Advent bottles, but once I put those out of sight out of mind, like I cold turkey. It was like 17 months. I remember he had it for like a lunch bottle, and then nighttime rolled around, and I remember thinking like in that evening, like just cut it. Like it just instantly popped my head. So boy, I cut it, and he was really fussy, but it was also outside of mind. The issue with breastfeeding, a lot of people don't take into consideration, is it's a comfort thing. So if I wasn't around, he was like okay, but if I was around, he instantly wanted to nurse, just because it was a comfort. Like he saw me, like I'm a comfort, I'm still his comfort, but it's also like there's more to it, like, you know, the nursing aspect. And I realized during that time, if I would kind of cradle him like this, it would kind of like, it's like a temptation, like, okay, I know this is the position, all that sense. So then I ended up kind of putting his back against my chest, then he would have his cup. I was kind of like, you know, cuddle comfort type situation. He still wants to lay like that. So it's also like your baby, like your comfort. That's a good thing. I don't know why people make that a bad thing. So we kind of get to, maybe it was March, maybe kind of like ending of February, going into March. It was at the end of his 16. There was a week, and then he would be 17 months. So basically, I know not everyone has this support system, and that's okay. But if like you have a husband or something, try to remove yourself from the picture, because this next step was I had a family member who offered to watch him, and I think it was like 2 nights. And so typically if I didn't have him, I would pump and stuff, but that, or try to just hand express or just something, whatever, you know what I'm saying. And so this time I did not. I refused. I was like, okay. So he spent the night at the family member's house, and it had been like Tuesday at 11 a.m. and then he spent the night, and then he spent the night again, and I did not pump nothing. And oh my gosh, it was so painful, let me tell you, but we made it through. Hallelujah. Basically, he came back and he kind of asked for it, and I was like, no, like they're all gone. And then nap time or bedtime came around, and he was like, ask for it. I was like, no, it's all gone. He would kind of wake up and he would get mad. So he like still remembered, and like I was still, you know, all that stuff, but I just kind of had to be stern with it, like, hey, no, like they're all gone, yada yada. Went to about day 3, and then we were doing nap time. He kind of turned face me, and he was like trying, he was like, you know, pulling the shirt, and I was like, no, they're empty, all gone. And he was getting mad. He actually did kind of start getting a little aggressive, kind of tried pulling my hair, kind of like smacking. That's normal. That's them trying to express their big feelings. They're unsure how to like cope about that. I mean, you think about it, if I take something like a comfort of yours, like it's frustrating. I get it. Babies don't really know how to cope through that, but we have made it. Probably been about a month and a half, maybe 2, since we have completely ended, and he's perfectly fine, you know. And I'm thankful I went that longer extent, because I wasn't ready, he wasn't ready, and I feel as if how we did it was like perfectly done. I have no regrets about it. I have regrets about my first one because I was not ready, but I listened to everybody else's opinion, including the doctors and his pediatrician, and I regret that still to this day. So like I said, just educate yourself, all that. Hopefully this kind of gives you like a different insight on that stuff. I don't really think I really went too deep into like personal and all the TMI stuff, but if you do want like a deeper rooted situation, like how step by step, I don't know, whatever, if you got questions, let me know, and I will try to make another video, and hopefully you can get something from that. Currently, my new current goal is potty training, and I'm trying to do both of them at the same time. Okay, it's a task and a half, but I'm gonna try to do it. So I actually have like a bunch of stuff here for potty training. So hopefully when I get that down to a T, it could take a little bit longer, I don't really know. Hopefully I can make a video on that. But if you have any other questions about the pregnancy, all that stuff, I kind of want to make a video on signs of the hypertension. Because I never did that. I was just so clouded in my brain, and I've sat back and taken. So I may do like a video on that, the hypertension, because that was like my first pregnancy, all that stuff. So if you have like any type of questions when it comes to pregnancy, complications, how it was the blood pressure test, stress test, C-section, emergency C-section, or actually being able to be awake during a C-section, any of those questions that relate to my previous videos or life journey stuff that I've been on, please let me know. Please, because I would love to answer for you and hopefully give you a little insight of what I went through and my journey of motherhood, marriage, yada yada yada. Like right now we hit our 5-year marriage anniversary at 9 years. Soon will be a decade of dating in this coming November, and then it'll be 6 years of marriage the next March. That's crazy. That's so insane. We have 2 little ones. Like, man, time goes by fast, let me tell you. Like I said, go check out some other videos. Currently we're doing the homesteading life, trying to get everything prepped on this property and getting the basic stuff done. Just built a garage. We're cleaning up our hay fields, and hopefully by next spring we will be able to have some chicken, possibly goats. It just kind of depends on our finances, as well as where we're at in life and all of that situation stuff. Check out my pregnancy content, my postpartum content. Remember, life is short. Don't forget to find some beauty in today. Bye guys.